centering text, divs, images, and just about anything else in HTML and CSS has always been a source of frustration. But in this video, I'll show you how the text align property works and how to use Flexbox to finally absolutely center elements in your page or parent elements.
Hello everybody, this is Chris, the owner of Love to Dev, and in this video I want to go over something that seems to be very frustrating for most of us, and that is how to actually center elements in a web page horizontally, vertically, and absolutely in the center with a center vertical and horizontal. For some reason this has been the bane of a lot of web developers' existence over the years. So I want to go over some principles of how to center things. And what we're going to do, this is a blog post that I recently posted about this, and the video will have a link in the description below. And we're going to go over some of the core concepts. Now, first off, I want to talk about just aligning text. And this can be done using the text align CSS property. And then there are different values that you can set here that will cause the text to align differently. Now I have a demo set up, and this link to the GitHub repo for this demo code is also in the description below. But what we'll do is I'll just choose this particular element here, and of course we don't have the text align set on this, of course. Oh, actually I bet I know it's here in the header. That's where I put it, I believe. There we go. So I have text align center here. Now if I did justify, you can see, well, it doesn't really justify, I guess. Let's see, not the way I wanted it to. I guess it's because it's not big enough, but all right. And yeah, because if I did do justify, let's say we had more text in there, so we can edit this, make that kind of big. You can sort of see how it's justified to make sure that it fits and aligns to the sides of the actual element. Let me just refresh this to get it back. And if we go and select, now I've applied the styling to the parent wrapper element so that we cascade down to these two header tags. That's because it just inherits down, and that's just standard HTML or CSS cascading rules. Now I can make it align to the right. We could also do some interesting things here if I can get the thing to cooperate. We can also do end, and I believe the difference between start and end, I think what I wrote in the blog post is that I think I wrote it in here. Here we go. Yeah. Basically, it deals with how the language works. Now, there's some languages that actually read right to left, which is the opposite of what English is, which is obviously my native language. And so the start and end will actually correlate to the language instead of justify left or justify right. So it would actually follow the language rules. That way, if you do have content that is multilingual, instead of using left and right, you may want to use start and end so that it follows the rules of the culture. So now that's real quick how you can use this to just align text, but you could also align some child elements using this. So again, using on the parent element, you could also use that to align some. So I just want to see if we can do this. Let's see. Let's say 50%. Yeah, I think we get. Nope, doesn't do it. I didn't think it would. I think it's because it's not display block. I think this might fix it. Nope. There we go, inline block. That's the trick to that. So now when I do inline block on that particular child element, it actually centers itself in the middle of the available space. Now, typically we've used that to center images. I'm going to show you how to center an image with Flexbox here before we finish it up. But what I want to do is I want to kind of show you how to do a kind of perfectly centered menu or nav bar at the top of your page. And to do that, we're going to actually use Flexbox, which is one of my favorite things in CSS today. Now, Flexbox is sort of new. I hesitate to call it new anymore because it's been around for, I don't know, seems like 5 years or so now. In fact, the latest version of Bootstrap uses all of its layout classes, all the containers and rows and stuff are all based on Flexbox now rather than percentages and stuff. And there's a lot of goodness behind that because Flexbox was created to make, it's called a one-dimensional layout system, but honestly it's X and Y is what it is for the most part. But it really was designed to do layout. Now there is kind of a big sibling or different kind of a sibling thing called CSS Grid that's more relatively new that actually came out of Internet Explorer. And honestly really has its roots back in XAML, but I want to cover that in here. I want to try to do some demos on that maybe in a few weeks. I gotta get some reasonable demos ready to go for that, so just look forward to that. But I love Flexbox. I've been using Flexbox for several years now. It's got ubiquitous browser support, so you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So anyway, what I've done is I've kind of created some CSS classes to help us out. The first one being flex, and then I've gone ahead and done, I got a flex vertical center, and then I've got a flex horizontal center, and we're going to look at each one of these. So first is just the flex class that sets the display type to flex. Now, as you saw, what I did previously was I did block, then inline block to get the H tags to center up. But here we're doing flex. Now that means that all the layout rules are going to follow the flex system. Probably if you haven't done it yet, it's going to take just a little bit of time to get used to, but I think after maybe an hour or two just playing around with it, you'll feel fairly comfortable with it for the most part. Now to make things line up in the center, you just choose you set the align items property and you say center. Now this is going to vertically align them. Let's go down to the horizontal since we've been talking about horizontal. Here I made the nav bar 100% of the width of the available space, but I set the justify content property on this to center. And what that's going to do is it's going to center our child element, which is our list, our nav list that we're working with. Okay, and if I just scroll this down just a hair, you can see how we're applying all this stuff down the line here. So you can see that's actually display inline block, which is pretty standard for a menu. Now you could actually cascade down and make the menu thing actually use flex, etc., etc. But anyway, I just wanted to focus on making it center. So to do that, we did the justify text to justify text left, right, center. And with Flexbox, we have a very similar property called justify content. And here I can center, we can obviously center things, which is what we chose to do. I can make it stretch, which you're not going to see too much there. We could choose, let's see, right's not giving me what I want. That's because it is, I wonder why it's not doing that. Anyway, all right. Well, you can see all the different properties here. Flex. If I move flex in, it moves it over to the end of the available space. I'm just going to move it around a little bit so you can kind of see that it does flow with that. So that's kind of a way to get a right aligned. Let's see if I choose right. It's not moving there. Why? I normally use like flex in and flex start, but most of the time I use center to get the center stuff in there. Those are the three that I tend to spend the most time with. Anyway, so that's how you can do left and right, which is horizontal positioning. And then to make it all line up vertically on the parent element of the actual nav bar, here I'm going to use the align items property, which controls the y-axis. And here we're going to do center. And again, we've got basically the same choices here. We could do flex start, which puts it up at the top. Notice it moves it up to the top. If I do end, it's going to drop it down to the bottom. If we do right, I don't think that right shouldn't matter, but yeah. So we'll just do center because that's the way I like it. So that's how you do. That's how you can make something horizontally centered and then also vertically centered. So now you can get a perfectly centered nav bar on your header. Now, what else do we have here? Okay, let's go down here to our cat with the shiny ball. Yeah, so this one, we're going to center an image, both vertically and horizontally. And this time, I just picked, let's see what we got here. Move this down just a hair. Oh, I don't see any flex being applied to that. Oh, we know what we're doing. We're doing the text align center trick here. That's what we're doing. And because I set the... sometimes the developer tools take away elements on me. Here we go. I think the body... Nope, I don't have that set. I thought I had it set differently. That's okay. All right, so what we're doing is we're actually going to center this vertically and horizontally, and there's really nothing to it more than I've got some margin to actually kind of give it some space there. That's what it is. So I've got margin for the top and bottom at 5%, and on the right it's just automatic there. And I've set the actual width of the image example to be 60% of the available view space. And I've used responsive images here, so the browser is going to automatically resize and reload different images for us. But because I just went ahead and used the text align center that actually moves the image to the middle of the available space for us here. And that is how this particular trick works. There's really not much more to it, as you can see. So basically, if you look over here to the right, you see it's got the margin for us highlighted. That's also showing up in orange as I pass over. So that's going to be the margin around it. And then we also have, let's see, we don't have any padding or anything like that. But the background of the image example is kind of kind of that gray color. That's why I got the C there. That way you can see, because the actual image is in the middle here, and that's because it's not as wide as the containing element, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to center it there in the middle. So basically we're just using the text align property. So that's kind of it, folks. Centering used to be hard. You can find all kinds of what I consider hacky ways to do centering, and that's because in the past that was the best we could do, especially vertically. Vertical centering was a real pain to do in the past. But because Flexbox is available now, you have pretty simple control over how to lay things out, both horizontally and vertically. So you can get that absolute centering position that you're after. And of course, if you want to make things, like push to the right, push to the left, or up and down kind of thing, that's actually very simple to do as well with Flexbox. Now, there's a lot of other things about Flexbox, and I got some plans to do some more videos on doing some other kind of interesting things with Flexbox, and of course CSS Grid. So you want to make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and if you think this is helpful to get you make your centering a little easier, give me a big like below. If you got any questions or comments, leave those in the section below. There's a link to the blog post and a link to the source code on our repo, and hopefully you'll find those helpful as well. Thanks a lot.